Hi, this is Rob Bowron with Sharp College Football, and let's talk some Alabama. Let's talk about being at the last one of these preview videos. I mean, congratulations to us. I mean, you too, if you've been following along. We really appreciate it as we've been, figuring out video, but which has not always been a pleasant listening or watching experience, but. We're here. We've made it. Alabama, number one. They're still not going to be playing till the end of the month, even as college football has started. But let's. We've gone all the way from. I think we did our first one of these on Arizona State. And if you've even gone back further in our, covering all the Power 5 teams, even Kansas on this. And now we've made it. We've gotten all the way down to what we project to be the number one team in college football this season. And it's interesting because we actually have more questions in some ways about this Alabama squad than we did about the number 3 team or the number 2 team. There's more to ask about, I think, with this Alabama squad. And then maybe we do have about Clemson coming into this year. And a lot of it really does come. I mean, this is the first time it feels like in a long time that Saban has real continuity at both coordinator positions. It always feels like, and really when you have been as incredibly successful as Saban has been, that you have turnover, year in, year out. And it is an absolute credit. I mean, I think people focus on the recruiting with Saban. I think people focus on the defense, but Saban's real genius, in my opinion, is as a manager. I mean, that is a deeply unsexy thing to talk about, but honestly, like if you are the head football coach, your primary job, the thing that you have to be really good at, and it does matter to make all the other things that you have to do work, but it is hiring, right? Like you have to be able to make good hires that are not only going to fit in with the culture you are trying to build, but hires that are actually going to work out and be good at their own jobs. And I don't know that anyone does that better than Nick Saban really does, some of the other coaches that have been really successful in college football, when they've been successful more often than not, it's that they haven't had, like, if you were going to say one thing about Dabo Swinney that is different than Nick Saban in particular, is that Swinney's actually had some relative stability at the coordinator positions compared to Saban. And, Saban is doing it with a little bit. I mean, even if he has a built-in advantage at being at Alabama versus Clemson, there's, what Saban has been able to do with the constant staff turnover that he has to deal with is remarkable. So, the fact that he hasn't had to deal with that and he has some coordinator continuity coming into this, I think gives you, that's one of the things that we're looking at and really looking at as a potential for, a major positive coming, into this for Bama this year. But the big question mark, because this isn't 2015 Alabama where it's just play some defense and, the offense will be okay wherever they shake out. Nick Saban is committed to playing excellent offense. And they were very, very good on offense last year. And, they're losing, they're losing the quarterback, which was the real engine of what they, a lot of what they produced last season. They're also losing their top 2 pass catchers off to the NFL and Ruggs and Judy. So there is absolutely, I think, more up in the air than you might expect, given that we have them at number 1. But there are also some reasons that I think should not be overlooked on why, the model projects them here. I mean, the model works off of, sort of some known factors that you can grade every team on, and you have the same data quality. That is not to say, however, that it sees everything or it's omniscient. It's not the eye of Sauron of college football. Not that turned out to be omniscient either, really, in the end. I mean, major miss relying on that. But that's some real corners of dorkdom there. I do think though that if you're, for what they have, we shouldn't overlook, I think, the real positives that Alabama has in the measurables categories. That's not to say, however, that, it's not fair to ask some questions. And really, as the humans, I don't think are wrong if you have Clemson at number 1 over Bama, because Clemson just has one less major question, I think, than Alabama does coming into this year. And it's totally fair to say, like, Trevor Lawrence is back. Let's bet on Clemson here. So Saban's been, the run of excellence he's had at Alabama is just truly remarkable. They finished out at number 4 last season overall. That is, that is with some slight fall off as the season ended with the Tua injury. They were number 1 in 2018. And I realize you're going to say, like, Clemson actually was number 1 that year. Clemson won the game, the final game, but over the course of the season, Alabama, projected as the better team, over that. And that is the way it works out sometimes. Nick Saban, he's just the run he's had, and the drive to still do it at Alabama is really remarkable. And I think it should not be understated how successful he's been. I think sometimes people could say, like, oh, it's Alabama. Alabama hired Mike Shula, they hired Mike Price. It's not automatic that it's going to work. Dennis Franchione, jetted off to A&M the first chance he got. There's no guarantee that you're going to be successful just because it's Alabama. I think you could put Nick Saban nearly anywhere, and he's going to be incredibly successful, as he has shown. Not a lot of coaches have national titles at more than one school. So, and they the run of success. He's had there. Like we've talked about, like, his talent as a manager and setting, and making the right hires and setting the culture and getting the recruiting done. The big parts of, if you were going to say what we think makes up a great head coach, he does that, really, those 3 things as well, if not better than almost anyone. And, they're the positives they bring into this year. They are still number 1 overall in our rolling 2-year recruiting ranking. That's fantastic. That's one of the reasons the projection model really likes them coming into this year, is because only Georgia recruits really close to Alabama, and there's a gap between even the teams that are at 3 and 4. Like Bama, just almost no one recruits like Bama. Then they're number 3 in our coaching and development rankings. When people talk about it's really only Clemson that has been close enough in recruiting and is so good at the coaching and development that they can really hang with Alabama. It is 100% not. If you think you're just going to recruit in the teens, and that you're just going to be able to show up and coach your way into, and develop your way into hanging with Bama, Bama's really good at that, really good at coaching and development. So it's not, you really have to bring it in coaching and development to make up for that recruiting. And, by the way, Alabama already is excellent at that too. So, that's not to say, Alabama's not invincible. It's, as we have seen, in particular last season, they really stunk on special teams. They were at 69 on special teams last season. There's some improvement to be done on the place kicking, but Nick Saban's got to really bear down on special teams, and figure this out, because you can't be this bad at special teams if you're Alabama. And be going up against teams that, are going to have, Ohio State was excellent at special teams last year. LSU was excellent at special teams last year. You can't be losing hidden yardage battles. So Alabama's got to be better in all phases of special teams. Number 69 is just not going to get it done at a really high level. They're at 84 in returning production. They still really do. I think when you go through they do have some pretty big production losses, but they really do bring back a lot, and there's a lot to like. I think about this Bama team, coming, into this year. It's not all doom and gloom that they're, losing everyone, and, they're losing some really important pieces, but, and then they are number 1. Sorry, we already covered this, number 1 in recruiting. So let's dive in. I'm really excited to see, what the numbers, to go through all these numbers for Alabama. I think there's room for improvement, in particular on the defense too. And they did have some injuries, last season as well that really, I think, did hurt them. So let's hop in and take a look at what we've got here for them on the numbers. Oh, I've got the ones up. There we go. I'm going to check the audio just to be super safe. It sounded good. All right. I think we're there. So on offense last season, Bama was just excellent on offense. They fell off a little bit with the Tua injury at the end of the season, finishing out at number 3 overall. Great drive efficiency, able to put together long drives, put up points, excellent at explosive drives. I mean, really able to put up big plays. Their play efficiency was very good. Number 2 there overall. I mean, like controlling, and all of these are controlling for opponent and field position. I mean, great yards per play. Their negative drives number is, again, excellent. Number 2 there. Not a lot of 3 and outs, not a lot of turnovers. They just did a terrific job. They had a really big run pass split. Number 2 overall in effective pass, number 56 in effective rush. I mean, they were the team right behind LSU in throwing the football last year. I mean, it's really remarkable to not find somebody like with the kind of split, like that as deliberate as like, say, Washington State or USC last season, to see LSU and Alabama. I mean, teams that did absolutely throw the ball, but it's not as if their actual run pass splits were this pronounced. They were just so effective throwing the ball last year that this is where they shook out. Steve Sarkisian, the offensive coordinator, has really resurrected. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Resurrected his career, as many have. With it, I mean, Nick Saban does. If you need to repair your reputation and start over again, Nick Saban often does, provide that opportunity for people. And Sarkisian has absolutely rebuilt his reputation at Bama. He has been a terrific play caller for this team. And has recovered from his open heart surgery that he had this offseason. I mean, I'm excited to see this offense again with Sarkisian calling plays. Because they were at number 2 in 2018. I mean, this offense has been really good of late, and Nick Saban is not just going to sit there and run out the defense. I mean, he has the expectation that this offense is going to be, and really in the era of big offense, really the engine of the team. So there's some real positives there. Number 5 in Pro Football Focus's QB ratings last year. Almost all of the positive there is to Mac Jones. Played well at times, played less well at other times. And I think that's, if you're going to hit on the nub of what's the question with Alabama, it's at quarterback. I mean, because, Judy and Ruggs are gone. What is this really going to look like with a new, passer back there? Some of the best weapons that they've had are now gone. Are they going to be able to really unlock it? There's some positives, though, in that the offensive line, they graded out number 3 in Pro Football Focus's offensive line grades. I believe, and I tried to double check this as much as I could, that in case there have been some opt-outs or anything, I believe they have 4 starters back on the offensive line that was so very good last season. That definitely gives you some further faith that this offense will be able to figure out. Certainly the quarterback will have time to be able to get things going behind that offensive line. They may be able to lean in and run the ball more effectively than they have in years, recently with Tua there. So my guess is that all will not be lost for this Alabama offense, but, not having, it's nice to have like an almost generational type talent like Tua there, to see, Alabama's recruited with well at the position. There are some younger guys behind Mac Jones that could potentially step in, perhaps a la Tua, to fill in if he's not getting it done at any point in the season and games. But, for Alabama, I think to be able to really, in the way this season might shake out, it's really Clemson, there is the only, with Ohio State not playing, some of the other top teams, like it's, wherever Oklahoma may shake out, I don't know that they're going to be quite there this season. We'll see where that defense ends up with Alex Grinch, but if they're really going to be able to catch Clemson, they're still going to have to be able to put up some significant points on the offensive side of the ball, and we'll see if Mac Jones is really able to get it done there. Like that's the big open question, if you will, around this Alabama team. On the other side of the ball, this was really not a vintage Alabama defense last season. So finished at number 8 in beta rank. Had some injuries, ended up further down the depth charts playing some guys that were a little less experienced than you'd like. Their drive efficiency number 7 overall. So pretty good at containing, long drives, getting off the field. Number 7 in explosive drives, pretty good at containing big plays. Number 3 in play efficiency, controlling for, opponent field position, pretty good at being able to get, limit that yards per play. Man, where they struggled is negative drives. Just not enough 3 and outs, not enough turnovers, just didn't come off the bench with a good enough plan to be able to get off the field. And that's something they absolutely have to work on. So 12 in effective rush, 12 in effective pass. Both of those are likely going to need to improve a little bit coming into this year, I think, for this Alabama squad. So the defensive coordinator is Pete Golding. This will be his second year there. He was at UTSA before that. I believe he also spent some time on the Bama staff and, as a position coach before returning. Well-regarded guy. Didn't quite work out where they wanted it last season. They were at number 4 in 18. I think that this defense absolutely has some headroom. They're at 79 in returning production on this side of the ball. And there's some questions. I mean, they lose the corners. But they return a lot on the defensive line. There's some real positives, I think, in this defense. They are going to have to pick it up in coverage again, and with the losses that they have. But this in a way, like this is this in some ways you could argue like this is the other question about this Bama team in this year is where do they shake out with, if one side is the quarterback, where are we going to shake out with this defense? Are they going to be able to get back in and be a top 5 defense again? My hunch is yes. But I mean, it'll be really interesting to see. I mean, if they don't, if they were not able to, because like Bama last year was not, in any way a vintage Nick Saban team's kind of bad at special teams, very good, but not great on defense. And really just an excellent offense most of the year up until the Tua injury. What they look like in this next year without Tua, is Golding able to, really lock it down this year and get this defense, into a better place. And then where do they end up on special teams? Those are all really, they have questions in all 3 phases, which, we're doing number 1 and we have questions in all 3 phases. So, there is something I think still to prove for this Alabama team in 2020 when we finally do get to see them take the field. Let's hop over and take a look at the schedule. Oh, so on the schedule that was, Alabama projects at a really outstanding win total. They were at 11.36 wins overall. On a 12-game schedule. That's phenomenal for an expected win total. You really couldn't put it more succinctly. Like, you expect Alabama to go undefeated when you look at that. Here I think the games that were, that would have been on the schedule, the one that you're really, bummed that you don't get to see is against USC. The projection model, I think, was underrating USC a little bit, having them at 28. I think USC was probably closer to 14 or 15. And that, put them more likely in the range of being about a, 17, 18 point underdog, maybe closer to 20, not 25 there. Alabama does project to be significantly better than even, the number 10 team in beta rank coming into the season. So instead, we get a different schedule here. My mistake, it's been a couple days since I did one of these, and I forgot to do so we will do that live and on the fly as I do that here. So we have Missouri here. That is a game that has been added onto the schedule. So let me go ahead and grab what that is going to be. Apologies for this. It'll just take a second. So Beta Rank would have had that as a 99% win probability against Missouri. That is brutal. But, you know, looking at more like in the range of a 30-point underdog for the Tigers in that game. You know, so keep an eye out for, I mean, that game, you know, Missouri gets a new head coach in there with Drinkwitz. I don't expect that he's going to, and I've said this a few times as we previewed Missouri, I don't expect he's going to have the immediate impact that Satterfield had at Louisville. I think he's going to have a little more of a build there. And that could be a rough outing to start out with there. I do really like Missouri's defensive coordinator. So that game might be fun to watch if you want to see where this Alabama offense may be shaking out. The next game actually is quite a challenge. It is going to be Texas A&M. A&M is a team that we really like coming into this season. We have them projected at number 7. They definitely have some potential upside there for the Aggies. You know, Alabama projects to be so good in this that they're still almost a 16-point, you know, favorite at home in that game. I would caution that, you know, week 2, whatever the season might look like, you know, that might be closer down to 10 points there. Ole Miss, this is a game definitely on the schedule. 98% win probability there. I think that feels about fair for where Ole Miss might find themselves. You know, 24 points feels about right. They do add Georgia. Nope, they had Georgia on the schedule. Alabama projects to be a lot. I mean, I think Georgia has a lot of upside depending on, I mean, well, now that Jamie Newman's opted out, maybe a little less upside. We'll see. Georgia with the new offensive coordinator coming in, Todd Monken, and the Georgia defense projecting to be just lights out good. I mean, again, this is a game that was really going to be a measuring stick for that Alabama offense. You know, this game is probably closer to 10 points, I think, for Alabama as a favorite over Georgia. However, I mean, if Georgia's offense really does get going, this game could be, you know, less than a touchdown by the time it kicks off. Tennessee, we're a little less high on Tennessee than I think some voters are. I feel like this is, you know, probably still about 25 points Alabama over Tennessee. Mississippi State, you know, again, like we'll see. I think that Mississippi State is going to struggle in the SEC this season if they struggle to protect KJ Costello. He can get happy feet and make some bad throws if forced to move in the pocket. LSU, you know, LSU is going to take a bit of a step back with the production losses. You know, I'm interested to see where their defense shakes out with Bo Pelini now taking over. That'll be a tough one, I think, for them to replace. And it's been a little while since Pelini was a play caller. But you know, they have so many moving parts. But what I will you could flip it around though and say it will be interesting to see this LSU squad. You know, because they are by the time that they played this game, LSU should have a lot of the kinks really worked out. And so, you know, LSU might really be right around in this, you know, top 10 projection. But I still think, you know, if Alabama really puts it together this season, with everything they have, I still think they're likely a 2-touchdown favorite over LSU. Kentucky, this is a game that's been added. This is actually should be a fun game. I am bullish on this Kentucky squad as a potential dark horse in the SEC East. They're returning 4 offensive linemen off a very, very good offensive line from last season. They do play pretty good defense under Mark Stoops there. It's still, I mean, you know, Alabama projects with a 96% win probability in this game. That's considerable. So that puts him, you know, right around probably like a 21, you know, point favorite over Kentucky. I think that's probably about right if Alabama gets things going, but you know, keep an eye on where Kentucky is because they could be a dangerous team this season in particular, and a team that I was a little surprised wasn't ranked coming into this year. They also returned their quarterback off of that injury that he had, and they were running the Wildcat towards the end of last season with a converted, a wide receiver converted over. So I do think that they have an opportunity to be significantly better. Auburn, I mean, we're projecting Auburn at number 10. I mean, not far off of Auburn's 11 projection here, but there's a significant gap between where Auburn has been and where Alabama has been. If Alabama, you know, hits their projection, it's 17 points. I think it's likely closer to like, you know, 13, 14 points. Arkansas, that game's not going to be close. We've got it projected at 37.5. That really feels about right, frankly. So that's the Alabama is still absolutely our favorite to win the SEC. Coming into this year, I would, we've talked about this with, Alabama is not going to beat you're not going to beat being projected at number one, but you could beat where we project you in the, raw beta rank numbers. So what you should keep an eye on to see if, Alabama is going to beat their projection. I mean, first off, let's start with special teams. Being good at special teams. How about that? So Alabama's special teams have to take a big leap forward for them, I think, to hit their projection this season. There are enough other things with questions around this team that it's not like last year where you can just rely on Tua to be so good that, the special teams hole doesn't feel as big. You may not have that this season. You really need the special teams to deliver. The next one is on the offensive side of the ball. You really do need to see, whether it's Mac Jones or one of the other younger quarterbacks, you need to see that this offense really can pick it up and deliver. I don't know that, and I say this, I don't know that we're going to have an offense. I mean, this might be a year, we've been on a pretty consistent upward trajectory since 2015 on offense in college football, where the offenses have gotten better and better and better at the top of college football. I don't know that that's going to continue this year. It could potentially be a weird year. And whatever we end up with, the real standard bearer for big offense in some ways might be that Ohio State offense. And we're not even necessarily going to see them in the same time frame as Alabama. So there's their competition at the top level. I mean, Clemson's had a very good offense. They haven't been in that excellent range that even Alabama was in last season for a lot of the year. If Clemson doesn't take a huge leap forward this season, the top offense out there might still be Clemson, and Alabama might be able to stay within spitting distance of them with, just a very good performance out of Mac Jones. It's going to be interesting to see, to put it mildly. I mean, I think, where this offense could potentially shake out is going to tell a lot of the tale of where this Alabama team ends up. So there will be, everyone will be watching where this Alabama offense shakes out. The other one, though, is can the defense really bounce back? It's weird to say bouncing back from number 8, but this is Nick Saban in Alabama. So, can they bounce back from number 8? It does, is Pete Golding going to be the next Tosh Lapoy and not quite work out as the defensive play caller? Or is he going to really get it turned around and get this defense in a better spot? I think that my money is on that he will, and I think that they have some interesting pieces coming back. But for them to hit that, I think a lot of it's going to depend on where do they shake out in pass coverage. Are they able to replace what they lost with their corners? If that's the case, I like what they have on the defensive line and the pass rush quite a bit. I think that they will be able to really live up to it. And I think that the run defense is going to get better than they were last season. I like where they're going to be with some of the guys that are coming back off of injury. So I would, for Alabama, we have a lot more questions about them than we do with Clemson in a lot of ways. But there's one thing about this Alabama team is that they absolutely have the talent to come out here this year, and with a bunch of guys that we were just getting some playing time last year, but were biding their time, could just blow the doors off people. So I'm really excited to see this Alabama team this year when we finally do get the opportunity to see them play. So that's it. That is it. That is all she wrote. Oh, I was so be careful on gesticulating wildly. That's all she wrote. We did it. That is the end of the previews. So I still have some preview work to do on the Twitter feed for Sharp College Football. I have not finished doing Ohio State on that one. I need to do Clemson, and then I will get to Alabama. But we did it. We're done. Congratulations to all of us at Sharp College Football. This has been a fun ride. We debuted the Saturday 6. It will have some tweaks by the time we roll it out again on this next Saturday. But if you're up at 6:30 Eastern time, tune in. If not, you can absolutely find it. It's not something you have to DVR. It's on Periscope and YouTube, so it will be there when you get up, and you can watch it during the commercials of game day, or when you're getting ready, or whenever you want. It's pretty easy to and you can pause it at any time, of course. So, anyway, thank you so much for tuning into all of these. If you've been watching, they've been a lot of fun to do. We're excited to keep chugging along with what we figured out with video. We're also going to be doing a special tomorrow, halftime show for the BYU Navy game, with a friend of ours, Parker Stats of War, who covers, TCU, but does, a lot of advanced stats, as well. I'm excited. He writes for Football Outsiders. I'm really, really excited for whatever weirdness, even though this season is undoubtedly going to have like these big fat asterisks and like sharp college football data of like, oh yeah, that year. I'm excited for the wonky weirdness of college football. And to see, I mean, there's, like all of these teams are interesting stories on their own. So, and Alabama is often the most interesting story in college football. I mean, you could almost argue there's a little bit of Alabama greatness fatigue under Saban if you're not an Alabama fan, but it's must see anyway. So I'm excited. In particular, I'm excited to see where the offense really shakes out this year with, and seeing, really, I mean, can Sarkisian adapt as he got it going? So let's do the usual. So you can find all the stats you just saw and a whole lot more at sharpcollegefootball.com. I'm Rob Bowron, the econometrician chicken behind BetaRank. I tweet out from @BetaRankFB. I also handle the tweets from @SharpCollegeFootball. We have a Pac-12 podcast at 12 Pack Radio. We just did a really interesting interview where we were previewing the run and shoot, which is, jumping from the group of 5 at Hawaii to the Power 5 at Washington State. So if you want to catch up on, what the run and shoot, if you haven't been paying attention or stop paying, if you were paying attention, I should say, back when the run and shoot was the offense, the hot offense, and winning Heisman trophies back in the SWAC. Or if you want to brush up on, the run and shoot, come check it out. It should be posting in the next 2 days and we'll tweet it out from Sharp College Football. You can find all the back episodes of that podcast at sharpcollegefootball.com/12 Pack Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will not see you tomorrow because we will actually, that doesn't work because we're doing the halftime show. We will not be seeing you anymore with the previews, but thank you so much for tuning into the previews. I really genuinely appreciate it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning in and supporting us. Stay safe out there. And we will see you tomorrow, it turns out, for the halftime show, and see you every week on the channel with the Saturday 6 and whatever else we figure out, going forward. So again, thank you.